Major changes to stamp duty in Queensland. Stay tuned. We're going to go through absolutely everything. Jaden, let's start off on the top. What's actually happened here?
Yeah, the Premier has just announced in Queensland that we're going to have some massive overhauls to the stamp duty concessions for first home buyers. So at the moment, the current scheme is up to $500,000, the stamp duty is waived. And this just hasn't kept up with price growth that we've seen over the last couple of years. So the Premier has just announced the stamp duty concession for first home buyers is being lifted. So in existing homes, anything valued under $700,000 will have stamp duty waived. Massive. Then between 700 to 800,000, it's increased. So it phases up to about 800,000 to the regular stamp.
Now, this is something we've been calling for so long. I don't think these changes have taken effect. The stamp duty concession for first homeowners has been at 500,000 for over 10 years. So this is a very welcome change. Jaden, can you explain for any first homeowners out there that are interested in this scheme when it actually starts and how much they're actually going to save?
So it's huge. So at the moment, if you were to buy, last week, if you're buying a home for $700,000, you would actually pay just under $20,000. You'd pay, I think it was about $17,350 in stamp duty on a home up to 700,000 from today forward. So they've made it effective from today, Sunday, the 9th of June. The stamp duty is waived. So you could potentially, using the home guarantee scheme, so the 5% deposit scheme, buy a home for $700,000 with only a $35,000 deposit. Previously, you needed about 55,000. You need that extra $20,000 in stamp duty. So this is a huge change. It's going to put more money back into your pocket. You're going to save that 17,000 in stamp duty, and it means you could potentially borrow less. It could potentially mean you could sort of lift the budget and change things around, which is one of the criticisms too. People saying, well, when these first home concessions come out, it could push the market. It's possible. We've seen it happen with the first homeowners grant, but focusing on the good news, I suppose, this is a huge change for first home buyers out there. It's also applicable on land as well. So if you're buying vacant land, the concession is increased from 250,000 to 350,000, and it phases up to 500,000 on vacant land.
Now, this is expected to help over 10,000 first homeowners in Queensland per year. So these are really exciting changes, very much welcome changes. Now, Jaden, what happens if I signed a contract yesterday, Saturday, and the changes have only affected and come into power as of today, where let's say my contract's for $650,000, where previously your stamp duty concession was no longer valid once you're over $550,000. But now with the stamp duty increase to $700,000, where you've got no stamp duty, what does it mean for me as a first homeowner? I've entered the contract, but I've actually entered the contract before the changes have taken place.
This is huge. Yeah, like in your example, if you paid for a home for 611,000, you might have signed the contract a week ago. You could still be in your finance clause. There could be $13,000 in stamp duty that is applicable. This is where it gets tricky. You're going to want to get legal advice because it's all based on when the contract is signed. If you cancel the contract under your finance clause, the seller could try and resell it. You could be at risk here. So you're going to have to chat and get legal advice around this because technically speaking, it's effective from today. You may not be able to take advantage of it. So you want to talk to your lawyer and your solicitor about that because at the end of the day, it's a tax that everyone has to pay.
Exactly. It's more or less from the contract date. So if your contract was dated before the 9th of Sunday, the 9th of June, then you're not eligible for it. You do need to seek legal advice. For example, if you crash a contract, enter the new one, these are things you need to talk about. They're the questions I'd be asking my solicitor to understand what the ramifications are. If I cancel the contract, enter the new one, what that looks like, how that's going to work, and really delve deep and find out what that looks like because there is a big savings. Now, as a first homeowner out there that might have been struggling to get that deposit, Jen, what do these changes mean to first homeowners out there? And are there other schemes and grants available you can use that you can sort of sandwich these things together?
Yeah, well, where we've seen it particularly impactful is previously under the old scheme, all the homes under $500,000 were pretty highly sought after because the stamp duty was zero. And as an example, if you paid $555,000 for an apartment, you're paying $10,000 in stamp duty. So you're going to need that extra savings. It's going to come to your pocket plus your 5% deposit. Like you said, Nathan, from today, that stamp duty is going to be waived. You're going to save $10,000. So it means you can get into the market potentially a lot quicker than you might have been expecting. It also means you could potentially borrow less. You've got $10,000 spare to use towards that.
That's awesome. Really good news here. And they're much really required changes. We've been singing out for these changes for a very long time. It's good to see the Queensland government's actually made a big change here. So to recap, guys, the stamp duty concession, which was previously $500,000 with nil stamp duty, and a concession from 500 to 550 is no longer. Now you've got zero stamp duty up to a $700,000 purchase. Now from 700,000 to 800,000, you still pay a discounted stamp duty, but these are very much positive changes that we've seen here.
Yeah, the other counter to this that the government sort of said, well, to be able to fund this, they're adding some extra duties. So for the foreign investor surcharge, so this is applicable if you're a non-resident, if you're not a permanent resident, and buying a property in Queensland, you pay a non-resident, a foreign investor surcharge. So they're actually increasing that to 8% in line with New South Wales and Victoria. So where we see this more commonly than not, it's not necessarily people that are based overseas and buying a property in Australia. It's more if you're a citizen and you're buying with your spouse or your partner who's on a temporary visa. In Queensland, you actually are applicable for that non-resident, the foreign investor surcharge for half of the title, because that partner on it's the 820 or the 800 visa is a non-permanent resident. You have to wait for a permanent resident for that to apply. So those duties are going to increase a lot. So be careful of that. Get some advice from your lawyer or solicitor if that applies, because it's a pretty hefty increase for that foreign investor. But obviously for the first home buyers, for the bulk of people watching this video, this is massive news. Hit us up if you want to get a review. I've spoken to people over the last few weeks, doing the numbers and saying, well, you might have $30,000 in savings. At the moment, that means you can only buy a place for a little over 500,000 because the stamp duty kicks in. This completely changes everything. This might give you a lot more budget, a lot more capacity to buy something that you sort of would prefer to buy. It's the difference between a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom apartment in the current market.
Yeah, 100%, especially for those home buyers out there that have the incomes but not quite the deposit. This change is a very positive move. As we talked about earlier, if you have as little as a $35,000 deposit, it now means you can purchase up to $700,000, which previously wasn't the case because stamp duty was something that was really eating into first homeowner's deposit. So very much welcome moves. Remember, you can sandwich this up with a home guarantee scheme. That's a scheme where the government's your guarantor. You can do a 5% deposit. There's no lender's mortgage insurance. There's a lot of things you can do. So guys, hit us up here at Hunter Galloway. We're mortgage brokers. We're based in Brisbane. We deal with people Australia-wide. Contact us directly at huntergalloway.com.au. Guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out with us. And until next time, thanks for watching.